You're listening to episode 6 of the Healthy Dudes podcast.
Welcome to the Healthy Dudes, the podcast where two regular guys embark on a journey towards holistic health and well-being.
I'm Anthony, and joining me is my partner in this adventure, Tyler. Together, we'll be diving into topics ranging from physical fitness to mental wellness, nutrition, mindfulness, and everything in between.
Absolutely. Our goal is to learn, grow, and inspire others who are also looking to make positive changes in their lives. We want to emphasize that this podcast is about our personal journey and the lessons we uncover along the way. We're not doctors or certified professionals, but rather two dudes passionate about living a healthier and happier life.
That's right. So grab your comfortable seat, plug in your earphones, and let's dive into the Healthy Dudes podcast. Together, we'll inspire and motivate each other to make better choices and live our lives to the fullest.
Welcome back to the Healthy Dudes. We have a special guest here. We're not really interviewing him. We're just going to talk with him about
it's a conversation.
Yeah, we're just talking finances today. But first, we're just going to talk about our goals for the week. So Tyler and I had some goals. Would you like to share how you did?
I'm invested in this part.
Yeah, it was a bit of a rough week for me. My goal going into the week was to do cold plunges daily, and I didn't do a single one. So that one just totally fell apart. So I wish I had something better to report, but it was a big negative on that. The only one that kind of counted is we went over to our friend's place, and they have an outdoor pool, and it was freezing cold. It was probably colder, even though it was 30 degrees out. The water itself was probably colder than the water in my bathtub downstairs. Thank you. So 1 out of 7 on the cold plunges. So more to go on that. But the one thing I did do, I'll say this, is I installed a safety chain because I've been leaving this water in the bathtub. And I was really nervous my kids would go in there and jump in the bathtub. So I installed a safety chain. So they won't be able to do that. So
what is this? What is that?
It's like a little chain that sits up near the top of the door. So when they go to open the door, it catches so that they can't actually make it through the doorway.
Smart.
So I improved the safety of the cold plunge, but I didn't actually cold plunge except for one day. How about you? How did you do?
I thought the safety chain was attached to the plunge thing.
That's what I was thinking too.
And then they would if they're drowning, they could just pull it. But I was they're like babies. I don't think they would be able to do that. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Sorry. Wow, that took a dark. Yeah, sorry. Anyways, yeah. So for me, I did really well on the calorie counting. I was under 2,000 calories pretty much every single day. Yesterday, we had getting out of debt party for Jesse. So it's really fitting for this podcast. It's a great segue, as they say. But so for me, I stayed under 2,000 calories except for maybe one day. And I was reading some books. I've read a book about it's like a recovery to emotional eating. And it talked about why we eat emotionally and how we're trying to fill a void that we had from childhood. And I don't know how true it is. I'm really only 10% of the way through. But I don't want to I feel like every time I get excited about something, I've figured it out. I figured this out, you know? And but I was trying to listen to why to my body on why I wanted to eat something. So my wife brought sweets over for Big Brother. We were watching Big Brother, and she gave me these sweets, and I was like, you know what? I don't really I'm not hungry. I'm not really feeling them. So I had one or two, and that satisfied me, and I figured it out.
Nice.
Yeah, and I also I haven't weighed myself, but I do feel pretty good. Nice. And I'm trying to weigh myself just once a week. So I have a friend at work. He's lost quite a bit of weight, and he said just keep it at once a week. Nice. And so I'm gonna do it once a week. And since the last podcast, it hasn't been quite a week. So I'll let you know the next episode if I lost any weight. But let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to the segue. And the gym. I didn't go to the gym, but I've only had 2 days off. I still have 2 more.
Okay. You had a lot of goals. I think you're doing pretty good.
Yeah. It's just 1% increments.
That's right.
Yeah. And in 1 year from now, we would maybe look like different people if we just keep improving 1%. So that's what I'm excited to do. But so the point of this episode is finances. We're talking finances, and are not financial experts, but
Far from.
I would say we're doing okay considering our age. And you had some interesting stats. And do you want to share some of those?
Yeah, I think you hear these stats kind of like anecdotally. And I just saw one the other day on Instagram. It was talking about Canadians. So we're all Canadians here, but it was saying like the average Canadian has under $1,000 in their savings account. So I think it was somewhere in the 600s. It was like $673 on average in their savings account. The average Canadian, the average age that a Canadian buys a house is like 36. So all three of us here, we own our houses. We're all under 36, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember some of the other ones.
More than like, what was the amount of like, how much debt? I want to say like,
on average, it was in the, I thought it was the 70s. Like,
70s.
Yeah, and I only said it because I started the year with,
at age 35.
Yeah, at age
Crazy.
35. Yeah, they had like on average.
That's
70.
not mortgage debt because you don't own a house by that point.
Of course, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think we're not experts, but relative to those stats, I think we're doing reasonably well.
Yeah.
And I think each one of us will kind of share our financial stories and kind of where we're at. So, Jesse, do you want to kick us off and tell us just a little bit, kind of give us a snapshot of your financial story and what all happened?
Yeah, well, so I brought my debt mountain here. Let's bring that up. Is this in shot? How's that?
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
Yeah, right there. So Friday, it's Saturday. Friday, we kicked this off. We filled in the last box. Amazing. And then we decided to highlight the 0 because why not? Yep. But first of all, I just want to say thanks for having me on this podcast. It's great. I've been listening to it since the beginning, Nice. This is a fresh start. But no, I really appreciate the conversation you guys have and like the relationship with each other. And it's just a real conversation. And you're not trying to like fix anybody or be experts. And you just kind of like talk about real issues. And I appreciate that. So, basically I wasn't really taught finances at a young age. Like I wish, I would have. My parents did a great job in a lot of things, but that just wasn't the thing they taught me. And so into my early 20s, I struggled with finances. I went through, so we're going to talk about this probably, Dave Ramsey. I went through it once in my early 20s, and then I went through it again in my mid 20s. And apparently it didn't stick the first time. And it wasn't until the thought of getting married when I was like, okay, I need to be serious about this. So I had.
And if you don't know what Dave Ramsey is, I'll just jump in.
Yeah.
He's kind of like, he's a pretty like basic financial guy. So a lot of, I would say, Americans and Canadians, actually people all over the world, live in just this mountain of debt, and that's just the normal way of living. Yeah. And he's breaking it down, and he has a course on like how financial to get out of debt. Yeah. And it's called Financial Freedom. So carry on.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's a great course. I know there can be like a lot of flack against him, but honestly, it shifted the way I looked at money. So mid 20s, I had student loans paid off. We got married. My wife had student loans that were paying off. And so it's been 8 months of hard work. In the past few months, we cut out fun money. We cut out living expenses besides like obviously the necessities, but we weren't like nothing flourish, nothing extra. Yeah. Nothing extra. We just we cut it real tight. We tightened up our belts and we paid off $30,000 worth of debt in
that's crazy.
8 months. Less than 8 months. So,
that's amazing. And like, how do you? I mean, it's only been less than 24 hours. But how do you feel about it?
Totally free. Just so no, it doesn't feel that much different, other than the fact like the weight of debt that everybody feel, whether you realize it or not, you feel the weight of debt. You feel the stress. You think about it. If it's a car payment, you think about it. If it's student loans, the interest might be small. You think about it. It's just like a little bit of a weight lifted off. I don't owe anybody anything except for the house,
Yeah. How did you and Tia get on board with this? So your wife, so my wife and I, we are pretty much on board, but we do have a lot of disagreements on finances but how did you guys get on board? Because there's probably a lot of people in a lot of debt. Maybe they're listening to this and they say, oh yeah, that would be cool if we could do that. But they also have to convince their partner, or how do they convince themselves, I guess, to do it?
I think you've got to be hungry enough, first of all. So for myself, I had to be hungry enough, and I had to have like something in front of me that was like enough of a desire to not be in it anymore. So the idea of not bringing debt into my marriage was a huge deal for me. And then convincing Tia, I do think it was a bit of convincing. I should have asked her this question. I can't remember what it was exactly. She wasn't like totally on board with the Dave Ramsey. I remember early in like kind of talking about getting married. She's like, why do we have to do Dave Ramsey? Like, why is that the way? And eventually I just kind of like talked her into like, it just works. It's simple. So we went through the course together. That helped. And that was the second time. And she was like, okay, this makes sense. But we had fights where I had to like concede a little bit. So we give to the church, and because of my pride, for a long time had been giving more. I think it wasn't all because of pride. I shouldn't say that, but I had been giving more. I rounded to a number. And she was like, we're just tithing. Like, we're just giving like the basic amount that we call tithe anyways, 10%. And so I'd round, and she's like, we're just giving the 10%. So like to the nearest like $5. And so I was like, my pride was hurt because I was always giving extra. And she was like, no, we're just going to give this amount. And so that was tough on my pride. So I think we both had to like come a little bit and give up a bit of stubbornness maybe, and just be hungry enough to want to not be in that situation.
Yeah, that's so good. And one other thing, we kind of touched on this on another episode, but you don't particularly make a ton of money, and that's no flack against you, but maybe some people are listening and they say, oh, I have so much debt. It's such a big mountain. Like 32,000 is quite a bit. But you might have more. You might have 70,000. But you did it in 8 months. Maybe someone could do 70,000, maybe a couple years, and that's not crazy to think. So like they just cut out their basic needs.
We definitely made our need. I think I said this on a post or something. I posted about our being debt free, and then I thought about it later. I'm like, I just put our financial situation out on like social media for everyone to look at. Didn't think about that in the moment, but anyway, someone commented like, whatever, good for you guys, and it was something about like the amount you spend or whatever, and I said, I definitely learned the difference in a much bigger way between wants and needs. It was like what I needed was definitely a lot less than what I wanted.
Yeah. So isn't that for everybody?
Yeah.
Like we don't need that much to be happy, and we don't need that much. We actually probably the stuff in our life takes away from our happiness, like the material things. I mean, there's some things that are really that are great, but I would say like the whole minimalism movement, people are as happy, if not happier, than they were before. Yeah. And so I really wanted to touch on that. I think
the other thing I'd say about that is your question. What was your question again? I had the thought.
It was about how you paid that much off with a lot less.
Oh yeah. So the amount of it's not a large amount of money. But I think the thing that I learned, I heard someone say it, it's not about what you make, it's about what you spend or about what you save. So, there was a comedian, he's like, there used to be a time, and he didn't even say something funny, but he said something true. He's like, there used to be a time when we'd say, I can't afford that. Now we have credit cards. Now we have lines of credit. Right. And so the phrase "I can't afford that" doesn't exist really, or doesn't need to exist. But we've been saying that a lot. We've been saying, "No, I can't afford that."
Right.
And it's uncomfortable sometimes. Like, you guys want to go for wings, and we're like, "Nah, I can't afford it."
Yeah.
And then Anthony's like, "We'll pay for it." No, man. You're like, that's not the point. No, but I appreciate it. But yeah, not being able to afford it and saying that definitely helps.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, so I guess a couple podcasts ago, I dropped Jesse's name because we've been working together kind of week to week and kind of going on this journey a little bit together. And we got a pile of debt that we started the year with as well. Yeah. Up almost double, more than double actually. It was like in the $78,000 range, not quite $80,000, you know. And it was just humbling to watch Jesse and Tia go through this, and like, you know, I would go out for wigs and get wigs. I got a bigger pile of debt, and Jesse and Tia are doing probably the right thing, really, of like you say, breaking down what do you need and what do you want, you know. So I thought that was just like totally cool to watch. So,
well, I knew it'd be a conversation, one with you and one with Tia.
Right.
So
yeah,
it was somebody's birthday, and I did get a bigger gift than we agreed on. So that was She's like, why did you do that? She's like, I'm going to buy a dress. I'm like, no.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh,
but
man.
the fact that it was going to be a conversation, one with my wife and one with you,
Yep.
having that accountability is it's big. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you wouldn't do it without accountability. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a big motivator for me. Like, we did the financial freedom. We did it 3 times. I did it once, kind of half the course by myself. And then the wife and I, we've taken it now twice. And so we agree on, like, Dave Ramsey has these baby steps, build up $1,000 emergency fund. Number 2 is where you get at debt. 3 is where
debt
you save
snowball.
Yeah. Incredible stuff,
Yeah.
really. And then 3, you get the emergency fund, a little bigger. And then 4, 5, 6 is retire, like save for retirement.
Yeah.
5 is save for your kids' college, and then 6 is pay off your house a little quicker. So we kind of agree on all those steps, but finding that motivator that kind of drives you, where like we had the kids and we're like, we spent most of our 20s just, spending the money that we had on like traveling and just kind of like exploring and figuring out what we enjoyed doing and that type of thing. But then once the kids started showing up, we're like, okay, we got to kind of get our financial house in a little bit better order. So that was a bit of a motivator. But honestly, like, I'm just like a competitive person.
Right.
And like, I get a lot out of like partnering with you and seeing how much you're spending and how much you're paying your debt down. And then that kind of like is just a driver for us. So that was kind of something that motivated us.
I feel like everybody's motivations, or there's like a lot of different motivations. Like for Tia, the idea of traveling was a big motivator.
Nice.
Whereas me, after having paid off my student loans before we got married, the idea of being debt free again was a major motivator. I'm like, I tasted it once, I got to have it again,
Yeah. So
that's definitely different for both of us.
Right. Yeah, we did that same thing. We got debt free like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And then bought a house, bought a rental property, bought another car.
Yeah.
And so we got right back into it. So now we're probably, I think, just under 100 days from being debt free, right? And again.
Yeah.
So now we're trying to figure out what's
so
next
close.
so we don't go right back into it. But now I got some accountability and stuff. So I think it'll go better. How about you, Anthony? What's your financial story?
So I actually wanted to do a little segue. Let's go back to our parents.
Okay.
So everyone kind of complains about not being able to afford anything, and cost of living has gone up
for sure
immensely. I do agree that there's a struggle, but you go back to your parents.
Yeah.
And my parents never traveled. They never went out to restaurants.
Yeah.
We always had hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
And we'd say, oh, it's so much easier for people back then. And it was probably a little easier to buy a house.
Yeah.
But my dad sacrificed, and he was able to buy a house on one income. He was in the Canadian military, so they paid peanuts.
Yeah.
And my mom was like an immigrant from Argentina.
Yeah.
And they didn't have much money, but we also didn't do the stuff. Like, my parents went on their first Mexico trip when I was like 14 or 15 years old.
Wow.
And like for us, it's like almost a right. We have to go to Mexico. We have to post those Instagram stories.
Totally.
And we are spending money like heads and shoulders above our parents. So we're going out for coffees. We're going out to nice restaurants. We have nice clothes. We have nice cars. And
multiple cars sometimes.
So my parents, they really taught us, and my wife's parents, they were very similar. So they taught us, like, don't get into debt. And pay off your mortgage early. And we're doing that. And both of us, we graduated with school. I mean, I went to trade school. It was really cheap, but we graduated with no debt. My wife was a nurse. She had no debt.
Wow.
And it put us like just ahead
totally
of everyone. And like, we're really grateful for our parents. They saved up a little bit of money for schooling. And that just put us head and shoulders above everyone. And we've always stayed out of debt. We've
Good for you guys.
And we've kind of, we have a line of credit, and we kind of like dip into that, but like by thousands of dollars, not by like tens of thousands.
Yeah.
So right now there's actually 1,000. I told you last night there was nothing on it. There's actually 1,000 on it, just because like
lies.
we are running. So okay, so you know Dave Ramsey says to have $1,000 emergency fund.
Yeah.
I go a little more extreme. I go like zero. I try to live that like thin line.
You're just waiting for Murphy's Law.
Yeah, but like, line of credit, that's a really nice cushion.
Yeah.
I know he says to have an emergency fund, but we're trying to pay off our,
so you're
our house.
opposite of emergency fund right now.
Yeah. What do you mean opposite?
Well, because the emergency fund is like supposed to be $1,000 to start.
Yeah.
But you guys are negative $1,000.
You could say that. I would say more like negative 950. 50 or something. We have about like 50 or 60 bucks in our account. But I'm trying to like, there's this thing called the NAMI forecast or NOMI forecast. Have you guys heard of that? No. It like predicts what's coming out of your bank.
RBC.
Yeah. App. It predicts what's coming out of your bank account. So I'm trying to like live in there. But there's some new things that come out and it's like, oh, wow, I did not expect that. But we're trying to, so for us.
Funny thing about that actually, the NOMI forecast, for whatever reason, it has been continually telling me for the past few months since we've been paying off debt. Towards the end of it, it kept saying you're spending over your budget. I'm like, how is that possible?
It always says that.
Yeah, it's like
just making me feel
this is
guilty.
terrible. Yeah,
yeah, like shut
I
up.
can't spend any less.
So we tried to like live that thin line because we don't have like personal debt to pay off, but we do want to pay off our mortgage. And I've had some arguments with people that hey, paying off your mortgage isn't the wisest thing to do, but I don't really agree. Like I
don't know how that couldn't be wise.
They think like growing your money, and there is a lot of truth to it. I do know that trying to squeeze every dollar for what it is like is valuable, and leveraging your money. There are a lot of people who've made tons of money that way, but for me, I was trying to buy all these like rental properties so that I could stop working. And last year or a year and a half ago, me and my wife, we spent our life savings on this rental property.
Yeah.
It was 110 years old.
It's painful.
It was the absolute nightmare of my life. And I was listening to like Bigger Pockets podcast and how all these people in the States were just like retiring after a couple of years. And I was getting there. Like we had a number and we were close to hitting that number, but then we bought this horrible, horrible property that has almost, and I'm not even exaggerating, has given me PTSD about renting or about getting properties. And we had some frozen pipes and we had horrible tenants. We had this escort living there, and then we kicked her out, put another escort in there. And then we had to pay her like $2,000 to leave. And then I had to spend $2,000 more on fixing the place up. And it was horrible. She like cast spells on people and stuff. It was horrible. It was horrible. But we walked out a little bit ahead, and we were able to buy our new house, which is, we call it our forever house for at least a couple of years. I have like itchy ants in my pants, as you could say. Like I always want to just look for the next best thing. But this house is really nice. It's really great for us, and we just want to pay it off. So we are 28 months away from paying this house off, as everything goes to plan. But we are definitely, we're not like sacrificing everything, but you're
committed to it.
We're committed to it because we're trying to be a little looser. So we are going on trips and stuff like that. But every other dollar we're just putting against this house, and I just imagine a life after paying X amount of dollars per month to pay this house off. Yeah, and it's doable. Like we don't live in like Indiana where houses are like $89,000. Yeah, we like the houses here. Like this house was like $500,000. So like it can be done. But it started with my parents for sure. Keeping us out of debt. And
that's a good point. They lived on a lot less. They had a lot less, but they didn't like go out and do all the things.
Yeah, it's so true. I laugh about it because we bought this bungalow. It's like 1,000 square feet, but has a finished basement. So we have like 1,800 square feet of finished space somewhere in there, which is like a reasonably sized home by like today's standards. But it would be like massive by like my parents' standards, or like not maybe my parents' standards, but like the generation before them, like it was a 82 build, so, but now like there's a lot of people with 3,000, 4,000 square feet of space, and I'm always sitting there like, I don't know if I can do it, like raise my family in this little shack, but it's got like 5 bedrooms in it. Like every kid that we'll probably have will have their own room. But like I grew up in bunk beds with my brother, and my sisters were in bunk beds, and you just kind of like figure that out. Totally. The other thing with vehicles, like my parents had one minivan, like all the way through until all of us kids were out of the house. Yeah, which is probably when they only need one vehicle. But then that's when they got like their second vehicle. Never a brand new vehicle, But like we have like 2 vehicles. We got a motorbike, like far more. So like you say, it's like some of it with the inflation and like house price relative to your income. Like I do think some of those stats make it like harder. But as you said, I think there's like an entitlement that our generation has of like, we deserve this, Yeah. Like we're talking about like repainting the house at some point, or new flooring.
You deserve this. Drives me crazy. I hate when people tell me that. You deserve it. Why do I deserve it? What have I done to deserve it?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
For existing.
Yeah, that's right.
You exist, so you deserve to get a nice car and have loans.
Yeah, totally. It's true. I asked you this last night, but I wanted to ask you here on the podcast. But what would you say is like next for you guys now that you've kind of tackled this giant?
Yeah.
You're debt free. We know what the baby steps are. We ran through those. You go on to 3, building up your emergency fund. But what are your kind of goals? Like, what's next for Jesse?
Yeah, start buying lottery tickets.
Nice.
Yeah. No. I mean, obviously, the next baby step is saving up the full emergency fund. So that'll take us 3 months or something like that, and then starting to invest. So we'll look at investing into with an actual investor and putting our money into stocks or whatever. I have no idea about investing, obviously, so I just throw the word stocks and hopefully that makes sense. Investing and then saving up for our cars are pretty old. My car, the tires on it are so bald, but the tires are worth the price of the car, so it's probably just makes more sense to get a new car. Maybe we'll see. Saving up for things like that, and traveling, trying to still enjoy a little bit. Yeah. So we're going to Hawaii and going to enjoy that. But just sticking to the budget. I enjoy the budget now. We were talking about it last night. We were talking about discipline. I enjoy the budget. It makes me feel safe and secure, knowing that I know where my money's going, and I tell it what to do. It doesn't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to distill that down, and maybe, Jesse, you could put a couple of these out, or Anthony, but if there was 3 things for all the listeners that you could give them to kind of help with their financial, their financial situation, I was thinking getting on a budget, even whatever that looks like. But for me, just knowing where the money's going was really powerful. Totally. You were talking about, I can't remember the name of that app or whatever you guys were using, but just knowing when money's going to come out and when money's going to come in. And I remember when we first did it, we looked at how much money we spent on coffee in a month. And this was 5 years ago. We were spending over $100 a month on coffee, which was pretty shocking. Yeah. But then that, and that number's kind of in the back of your head the next month, and it's I want to kind of get that down a little bit, one thing we use Mint to keep track of our things, and it just shows month to month how you're doing compared to last month. So it's as of this morning, we're $500 ahead, so we've spent $500 less than we did at this point in the last month. So it's kind of I'm competing against myself to see if I can spend less money this month than last month. You know? So do you have any other we talk about financial freedom and Dave Ramsey and getting on the baby steps would help, but obviously we talked about getting your spouse on the same page. That's huge. That's a big one. We talked about accountability. Anything else that comes to mind? Or Anthony?
I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things. Okay, so one, I think if you can, the giving thing is huge. If you can put away, try 10% of your income. Try it. Just see what happens. You don't have to have the same beliefs as I do, but generosity has a way of returning back to you. It just does. It's not that you'll know everything's going to work out and you're just going to suddenly have no debt. That's not true. But you'll find that your money goes further, and you're probably a little bit happier because you're actually just, being a decent human being. So try that one. The budget, for sure. We use Good Budget, and we're on the same page about it. And it's huge. The tracking, so we can look at, we send each other screenshots of the past week. So it sends me a little pie chart, which is nice. I'm a visual person, so I like being able to see a little pie chart. And I can check it month to month, or I can check it year over year, which is great. But having a budget, on your phone, everything else is on your phone. Why wouldn't you have a budget on your phone? Don't do a spreadsheet. Don't write it down. I don't know why anybody would do that. Put it into an app.
Tyler does a spreadsheet. I do.
Yeah, I know. You sent me screenshots. Man, you were so detailed.
It's almost
respect the heck out of it.
I don't even read it. I'm just wow, this guy's way better than me. I just delete it. Great job. And I just second, great job.
Yeah. I don't look at it as detailed as you do. Even your detailed report, I don't look at it that closely. But I do appreciate how thoroughly you look at, because I don't even look back and can I slim this up that much? I just kind of generally think I could do it cheaper.
Right.
But specifically, that would probably help. I think. And the third thing is, I think having accountability, having someone you can talk to about it, and just adding a little bit of fire under your butt. definitely helps. So
yeah, it's nice having accountability partners, and it kind of goes back to like why we started this whole thing, that we just want to get better. And I feel like if you're just alone in this life, it's hard to just do life alone. Like how motivated am I to go to the gym? Like I am not, as we have learned, I am very unmotivated. But like I know there's like Tyler's gonna check up on me, and I kind of just have to feel a little bit ashamed.
Yeah,
I didn't go to the gym. Sorry. Yeah. And if I feel pretty bad, but I know on Sunday I'm gonna have to text. Oh, that's tomorrow. I know that I'm gonna have to text you guys what I spent, and it was pretty expensive so far this month, even though we're 5 days in, and like my budgeting, I have to go back and I have to add things, and I'm like, this sucks. But but it does show me where I'm at, and it shows me where my money is. So I would say for people who just want to get started, just know where your money's going. You don't have to start a budget. Just just find out where it's going. Yeah. And do that like generosity thing. Yeah. You might not believe in what we believe, but like, I do believe if you can't live off 90% of your income, you can't live off 100% of your income.
Totally.
And there's something about just like giving money away that just feels, it just like, it just loosens your heart up. It just like, you're not so stingy, and you just, sometimes you feel a little bit better than other people, but like that's not the point of it. But there's just something about it. And you're helping out a little bit. Like I was reading a book, and they talked about, just imagine what you could do. A lot of people, I was reading this book, it's called Die with Zero. And I don't agree with everything in this book, but the book talks about giving away. A lot of people wait till they die to give away their money. And it talks about how you should give away money right now, because the best investment is right now. And think about, say you adopt a kid overseas for $47 a month or $50 a month. And, there's a lot of like hate that goes towards those companies, but $50 a month is not much for us, but it like will change their whole family tree in the future. So they're getting fed, they're going to school, they're getting educated, which gives them a great job, and they will be able to like pass it down to their generation. We're like breaking chains for one kid. And imagine if everybody who's privileged, and we are all privileged, and we're pretty prosperous here in this country, even though like sometimes we think we aren't. But imagine if everybody in just North America,
I think part of it is like, it's also a mental thing. If you're giving away money, there's like a mindset. And I've heard people talk about like a poverty mindset before. And I think I grew up with that a bit.
Yeah, me too.
And you talked about that actually. Yeah. And I related a lot when you said that. Giving away money makes, like, it switches something in my brain where it's like, I can live without this. I don't need it. Because I think the poverty mindset is, I need this to survive.
There's not enough to go around.
Yeah. Why would I give it away? And so to give it away is like, you know what? There is enough. There has always been enough.
Totally.
We as a nation are very blessed. And I know like businesses, I don't know what the stat is. I know like business, like successful businesses that are bigger. I think there's like a Fortune 500 stat or something, but like the top companies give away a percentage of their business profit.
That's awesome.
And I think it's like more than 10%.
Yeah, totally.
And why do you think they're doing well?
Totally.
I think that's probably part of it. So
yeah, I think just to kind of summarize on that, I think that there's like an emotional element when it comes to finances. And I think like for me, like I just thought it was like a numbers game. But there's like we talked about with like paying off your mortgage versus like investing that money. There's just something about that, emotional side of having a house paid off that's like hard to quantify when it comes to numbers. Or like the debt snowball is a classic example where like you just list your debts off, start with the smallest one, then the biggest one. It doesn't matter what the interest rates are, but like an accountant or anyone with finance would tell you, well, the most bang for your buck would be to pay off the highest interest thing first, and then the next. But there's an emotional element of like, oh no, that one's X'd off, and this one's X'd off, and this one's X'd off,
momentum,
and you start to feel like you're winning, and there's like an emotional kind of component to that. So yeah, I think that there's some emotional parts of that, and we're emotional beings. So you got to kind of gear towards that. So
that's good.
Well, thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for coming onto the show.
Yeah.
I just love having you in my life and all that you do, and it's inspiring to see what you and Tia are doing so early in your marriage. And your lives, and I know that you got blessings coming your way. So yeah,
thanks, man. I appreciate you guys having me on the podcast. I'm really thankful for you guys. I mean, you were both at my wedding, best man and groomsman, and I'm just so thankful that we get to, talk about these things and like actually like go through life and like just be open about it. It's great.
Yeah, it's so good. And yeah, if you're listening to this, you can do what you want. Like you can like have financial peace. You can have financial success.
Yeah.
And finances aren't everything, but it is really important. It's important. Yeah. Like I think a healthy dude would have his finances in order. Yeah. And you might not be like as prosperous as other people, but you will have like a great life. You could have a really great life.
Yeah.
And it's really great. We don't have any financial fights, my wife and I, because we're like on board. We're on
That's so good.
But like people have financial fights.
Yeah.
And you guys are fighting about like what to pay off. But like there's people who have like fundamental issues of how to spend money. And
we mostly fight about the groceries now. Like, what are we buying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our very first fight as a married couple that I can remember was we were in the grocery store and my mom always bought like the good maple syrup, like the one from the tree. And
actual maple syrup versus table syrup, not maple syrup.
What?
Table syrup is not maple syrup. I don't
What's
care.
Table syrup? Aunt Jemima?
Yeah.
Okay, so
you can't call it that.
So my wife's mom would always buy Aunt Jemima, and it was like a $11 difference, if not more. And I was like, well, no, like you don't eat. Like, look how much like sugar is in this. Even though like, but like my mom just always bought that. And it was better. But I remember we just had to agree that she was right.
Yeah.
But we are aligned. We know what we want, and we don't fight about money because we've gone through the hard stuff at the beginning, and it's tough to take your finances and really get a hold of them, but it's worth it.
Totally worth it.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on our show, and hopefully we got another mic. We thought we had 3 mics, but
I'm the lab rat.
Yeah. But we only have 2 mics, so there might be some audio stuff issues. Anyways, so how should we end this? Our goals?
Yeah.
Okay, so Tyler, what's your goal for the week? And what next time we meet, what should we I don't know. What's your goals for the week?
Yeah, kind of like last week, I started doing that cold plunge. Then I was trying to make that a goal for the next week. But yeah, for this week, one thing I've been experimenting with is I walk over to the park that we back into, and I have lunch over there. So I just take my sandwich and I just walk over and sit on the picnic table. And we got a nice pond with like a little fountain, and it's just a chance to like just have a little, in this case, Tyler time. But I'm not saying I have to do it by myself. So if my wife's off or my boys are around, then I'll take them over there. But I'm just trying to like, I don't know, get that time. I got a little bit because we've been biking the playgrounds and stuff like that with the kids. But there's just something about, just the freedom of just kind of walking over there. I worked with somebody recently, and they would take like a little folding chair to like a public park, and they would like crack it open and just read a book. And we both read that book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And he was talking about silence and solitude and trying to just carve out 10 minutes every day where it's just like you with your thoughts. And that's just kind of been my thing. I've done it twice this last week, and I enjoyed it. So I'm just trying to do a little bit more of that. So
that's
I'm
cool.
Just playing with that this week. So
that's great. Yeah, mine is the same. Just keep track of calories and try to hit the gym 4 times in my 8-day rotation period. And yeah, I've been reading too. There's something about reading a book. It like slows down your life. And I remember I have a shift where I have to like kind of just sit in front of a computer and monitor some things, but you can kind of like watch a show but I remember reading a book, and I read for an hour, and I felt really good, but I felt like, I'm just wasting this time. I could be watching a way more entertaining show. And it was tough to read for an hour, and I feel bad.
The FOMO. You talked about this, the anxiety.
Oh, the entertainment anxiety.
Wow, that is so true. I'm like, I could read a book, but I might miss out on a show that I might never be able to watch again.
Wow. Yeah. It's sad, isn't it? Like,
so sad.
There's so many shows out there that we'll never ever watch. Yeah. And also books too. And I'm just trying to read.
But I mean, books are always around. They're always going to be around.
Yeah, shows won't be. And you have to pay for pay for shows.
Yeah.
It's stupid. But and I'm reading another book also, the Die with Zero. Really good book. I would recommend that book. It kind of changes my financial ideas. Mm-hmm. It's a weird book. I wouldn't like recommend. It's a weird book. If you don't have your finances in order, I wouldn't recommend that book. But it's kind of it's written really weird. Mm. I don't know. I guess I don't need to share that. But anyways, I guess that's the podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jesse. And
thanks, guys.
We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. And if you like anything that we're talking about, I always put this plug in there. Try to drop a comment, subscribe. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're all over the place. So
do it, guys. It's so worth it. Yeah. Great podcast. Great conversation. Real guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Jesse.
And we have quite a few listeners.
Yeah, we do.
Like we're I'm checking my stats. Yeah, we're like an international.
Yeah.
We're in India, Germany, Italy.
Wow.
So share it, guys. It's blowing up kind of.
Take it off.
Yeah, taking off. It's hockey stick already. Hockey sticking? Is that what you say?
To the moon.
To the moon. Yeah. All right. See ya.